I had bought and had a herd of bison, cows, but I got rid of them, and now I only have 25 cows and buy all my feeders.
Vern and his wife Marlene raise bison, and they winter their bison close to their home place, which is just outside of Shaunavon. And what they wanted to be able to do was to create more opportunities to rotate their wintering site. And from a watershed stewardship perspective, this makes a lot of sense, because then there's better nutrient distribution from the manure that's left over each winter. If you can rotate your wintering site, that's a big plus for water stewardship and land stewardship.
An open range animals, so therefore they want to be in the open.
And so what we helped Vern with was to sort of decide on where the pipeline was going to go. It was a deep buried pipeline, so it needed to be below the frost line in order to, you know, water the cattle water the bison through the winter time. And he had 3 different outlets along this pipeline, and then used thermosinks, which are some really interesting technologies for water infrastructure that actually don't need to be insulated, because the trough itself is built down into the ground, and the heat from the ground causes the water to circulate, so it's almost like a type of geothermal energy that keeps the trough open. And so we just assisted Vern and Marlene to access the funds and to figure out their plan, and as far as I know, Vern carried through with it and now has a good setup for being able to rotationally winter his bison herd.
I noticed that we had rusty water, and very, very rusty water. Then the wife started telling me that it had an odor to it and a taste to it. Well, didn't act on it right away, but I finally had trouble with the well, went to pull the pump. I couldn't get the pump out, and I could hear water running, and I couldn't figure out where the water was coming from, but we finally put a line down and found that we had a hole in the casing 20 feet down. So the top seam of water was leaking into the bottom seam.
So he used a new well in order to put this water development together, because the old well had started to have some water quality issues with it. And so the other piece that was really important that Vern did was that he properly decommissioned the old well. So he filled it in using a well driller. It was a drilled well, so it involved basically pumping bentonite sludge down into that hole and filling it back up so that the aquifer itself was protected from surface contamination. And this was really important to Vern, because as an older farmer in the region, he remembers a time when the water quality in Shaunavon was extremely high. And to him it was very important to try to assist that to stay in good health.
Like Shaunavon has one of the best waters, and of course we had that well but just wasn't using it, but now we're using it, and we really noticed it. Once we closed this well off, our water just changed from real bad water up to real good water.
Him and his partner, his wife, ranch straight north of Shaunavon, and Mike is really passionate about rotational grazing and grass management. And so again, water infrastructure comes into play very prominently when you want to be able to rotationally graze your herd.
The type of watering system, I got it because mostly for rotational grazing and to try and keep the cows from breaking down the creek breaks where they water at. So it's working good. The cows seem to prefer it when they're out there. On really hot days, sure, they still go down to the creek and stand in the water some, but in general they always go to the water trough first.
The situation that Mike had is that he had an existing well that he knew was a high quality producing well, but he wanted to take the water from that well and distribute it amongst, I think he had up to 8 different paddocks, and was placing the outlets of a pipeline all throughout those paddocks so that he could intensively rotationally graze his cattle herd through there.
The Swift Current Creek watershed helped me plan the project and gave me the information about the water and lined up some funding for me.
Again, we helped Mike with the paperwork, helped him think about just ways to optimize the placement of the water infrastructure. I mean, he pretty much came to me with a plan in place, so it was basically just putting the paperwork together and helping him just think through about efficiencies or extra little details and making sure that he got that down on paper so that he could get reimbursed for it.